Terminator 2 Judgment Day is widely considered one of the greatest sequels of all time, but why? Was it a twist on what was done in the first movie? Was it a completely new thing? Or was it a genuine progression of the elements presented the first time around? We're talking all about it this week in Caden's Movie Club. Spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen it,
hasta la vista, baby.
In The Terminator, Sarah Connor is hunted down by a cybernetic assassin sent from the future. Sarah's future son, John Connor, will go on to lead the human resistance against an AI system known as Skynet. By sending the assassin, known as a Terminator, Skynet is trying to rewrite the future. But John also sends back one of his men, Kyle Reese, to protect his mom. Kyle and Sarah fall in love, and in a classic time paradox, it's revealed that Kyle is John Connor's father. John made Kyle memorize a message to give to Sarah, and it begins with the line,
"The future is not set. You must be stronger than you imagine you can be."
Now in the first Terminator movie, that phrase acts as a kind of warning. It's not a guarantee that Sarah will survive, it's an acknowledgement that the machines are actively trying to change the future. And if Sarah doesn't rise to the occasion, they could succeed. And she does rise to the occasion. We saw a glimpse of the hero Sarah is supposed to become. We also saw glimpses of other ideas, such as our fears about nuclear war and advancing technology. The movie functions as a kind of horror story where Sarah represents humanity trying to outrun those fears. And she does, but the ending is a little ambiguous. There's still dark times ahead. Sarah may have stopped the machines from total victory, but she certainly didn't stop the apocalypse. She didn't stop Judgment Day. And so the ideas presented in the first movie only become fully explored when we get to the second installment. Everyone might have their own specific idea of what makes a good sequel. I would say an ideal sequel takes the ideas and characters we know from the first part of the story and puts them into situations that forces them to evolve. There has to be some true progression of a character arc, of the meaning of a story, and ideally of the stakes involved. And Terminator 2 does exactly that. The story starts with a setup that seems like it's going to retread some familiar ground. A machine is sent back from the future to assassinate a specific target to make it so they won't be present in the future. This time around, the target isn't the mother of John Connor, it's John Connor himself as a 10-year-old boy. And just like in the first movie, someone else is also sent from the future to protect the target. But here we get our first progression of the story. The machine that was the antagonist in the first movie,
Get down.
becomes John's protector in the second. The one that seems like he should be protecting John is the true monster, a more advanced Terminator made of liquid metal known as the T-1000. When we meet Sarah Connor again, she's been arrested for trying to attack a computer factory. She ends up committed to a state hospital for the criminally insane. In the decade since we last saw Sarah, she has transformed herself from the average young woman we originally got to know into the woman that we believe could raise the future leader of humanity.
This next patient is interesting. I've been following the case for years.
She's been changed by the traumas, both of what's already happened to her and what she's anticipating. She's now a gritty, hardened outcast, a doomsday prepping weapons expert. She's a hero that nobody believes.
You're more like Sarah Connor.
No, I'm not.
Yes, in the first movie too, before she could do chin-ups.
The movie isn't interested in retreading any of the arc of the first movie. It starts in a more interesting place and allows her to continue evolving. When John realizes the Terminator follows his orders, he forces it to help him rescue his mom. Sarah is of course orchestrating her own escape by the time they get there, but it leads to this moment.
Come with me if you want to live.
The Terminator says the exact words that Kyle Reese said to Sarah when he first rescued her from the Terminator. But it's more than a callback. It sets up this idea that Sarah's entire perspective is going to go through a reversal. Once they all reach safety, Sarah wants to destroy the Terminator. But John stops her, and instead they change a setting in the Terminator's internal system that allows it to actually learn. Sarah agrees to this because John points out that the Terminator will be more helpful to them if it can learn to act more human and blend in. But really, John is desperately searching for a friend, or really a father, because he's never actually had a parental figure. Even before Sarah was arrested, she was training him to be the savior of humanity.
She'd shack up with anybody she can learn from so she could teach me how to be this
Great military leader.
She wasn't his mother so much as his mentor and trainer. The trio then goes to one of Sarah's old weapon stashes and they stock up to defend themselves against the T-1000. Now up until this point, T2 has mirrored the structure of the first movie. The action has been elevated, the effects were literally revolutionary, but the core premise was similar. It's here at the midpoint that this mirrored story starts to distort its reflection and become really interesting. Every night, Sarah has a recurring nightmare about Judgment Day, the future day when Skynet forces a nuclear attack that destroys most of humanity. Earlier in the movie, we got a glimpse of this dream and she described it, but now we actually see it, and it's horrific. Around the same time, Sarah reflects on the fact that this machine she has hated so much is actually the perfect guardian for John. Without any real emotions, it can't possibly hurt him. All it will do is protect him. Knowing John is safe, Sarah realizes she can finally live up to the message that Kyle, and by extension, the future version of John, told her.
The future's not set. There's no fate but what we make for ourselves.
The Terminator has extensive files on the man who creates Skynet, an engineer named Miles Dyson. Miles works for Cyberdyne, a company that secretly kept pieces of the first Terminator that came to hunt down Sarah. They realized that these pieces of tech were extremely advanced and they could reverse engineer their own tech by studying it. Miles doesn't know any of this as the company never told him where the tech came from. The story of Terminator has multiple time paradoxes where things seem to be self-fulfilling acts. How could John Connor exist if he has to send his own father back in time to be with his mother? How could Skynet exist if it's only created by finding pieces of Skynet? It makes it seem like everything is stuck in a predetermined cycle. Judgment Day seems like it's inevitable, but Sarah chooses to believe there is no fate but what we make. She wants to break this cycle, and she believes she can do it by assassinating Miles Dyson. In the exact same way that the machines tried to erase John Connor's existence by taking out his creator, she's going to use their own tactics against them and do the same thing. And this isn't the first time that the movie has brought up the moral implications of this kind of violence. When John first meets the Terminator, it's more than willing to take lives in order to protect him, until John stops it.
Listen to me very carefully, okay? You're not a Terminator anymore.
John isn't able to articulate exactly why, but he understands that taking a life crosses a line you can't come back from. So when he finds out his own mother plans to cross that line, he takes the Terminator to try and stop her. And in this scene, Sarah has become the thing she hated and feared. She is the Terminator. And we might be tempted to agree with her. Sacrificing Miles Dyson could save billions. But that type of thinking is the entire reason why Judgment Day would ever happen in the first place. What was Skynet built for? War. It's intended as a military system that Miles thinks will save lives, but only the lives of the side that has Skynet. It will make taking out the enemy all the more efficient. And what tool does Skynet use to launch its first attack? It's not robots, it's the nuclear weapons humanity has already built to destroy each other. The machines in the future simply represent humanity's own repeated mistakes. And if Sarah commits this act and gives up her humanity in the process, she wouldn't be defying fate. She would continue the cycle of self-fulfilling it. It might stop this version of Judgment Day, but another Judgment Day will come if humanity can't stop repeating these sins.
I got you! No, you didn't! We're not gonna make it, are we?
It's in your nature to destroy yourself.
So how do we really stop the apocalypse? Not by feeding it with violence, but forging a new future. And fortunately, Sarah listens to that same internal feeling she must have passed on to John, and at the last moment chooses not to assassinate Dyson. Instead, they tell him what Skynet will become. Then together they plan to destroy Cyberdyne and all of Dyson's work to ensure Skynet can never be built. In a tragic twist, Dyson ends up perishing anyway, but this time he makes the choice to sacrifice himself to save humanity. Our original trio succeeds in destroying the Cyberdyne facility, but until they destroy all evidence of Skynet, they haven't defeated it, and the T-1000 is still hunting them. The T-1000 seems unstoppable and indestructible, but when Sarah stops trying to outrun this manifestation of her fear and faces it, her fear transforms into the solution. And not just because the Terminator forces the T-1000 into molten metal with a grenade launcher, even though that's frickin' sick. It's because here, Sarah realizes that for all her strength and grit, she also has to hold on to the most human thing you can do, which is to love. John has grown to love this machine, and it seems even as if it's learned to love him back. But the answer to stopping Skynet, to stopping humanity's Judgment Day, is not Sarah sacrificing herself and her humanity to leave John in the care of a machine. It's the other way around. The Terminator sacrifices itself to make sure all pieces of Skynet are completely destroyed. And Sarah truly steps back into John's life, not just as his mentor or protector, but as somebody who loves him.
The unknown future rolls toward us. I face it for the first time with a sense of hope. Because if a machine, a Terminator, can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too.
Terminator 2 is one of the best sequels of all time because it doesn't just retread the elements that were engaging about the first movie. It takes each of those elements, from the action to the characters to the story itself, and puts them into a context that forces them to evolve into something even more meaningful. And next week we're going to take a look at our next sequel, one that didn't have to worry about the origins of its famous character, since the first movie took care of that, which then allowed a deeper examination of what really defines that character. The Dark Knight is the movie that really ensured Batman's blockbuster status beyond the Burton era. It's the movie that catapulted Christopher Nolan into a a blank check kind of filmmaker, and it's considered by many to be one of the greatest sequels and one of the best superhero movies ever made. So here's some questions to keep in mind while you watch. In what ways does this movie build on what was established in Batman Begins? Does it call back to any themes or character traits from the first movie to inform the progression of the character in this movie? What is Batman's primary dilemma in this story? How does this raise the stakes based on what we've already seen him overcome? How do the antagonists in this story challenge the beliefs or codes of Batman and the other protagonists? Were those beliefs re-established in this movie, or did they come from the first movie? So let's chat about Terminator 2 in the comments, and I'll see you back here on Sunday to discuss The Dark Knight. And if you want to stay in the know about Movie Club, you know where to go.